The story for Remember Me is set in future Paris called Neo Paris and follows a girl named Nilin who is a errorist, and an errorist is someone that could steal and remix memories because in this world people have memories that can be shared and can be destroyed. The story starts off with Nilin being captured by Memorize, the corporation that branded the whole sharing of memories and of course saving and destroying of them too, and she is actually getting her memory erased by them. Luckily for Nilin, she does not lose all of her memories and gets saved by the Errorists, pretty much the resistance of this game, led by a man named Edge. She gets out of the corporation Memorize and she has to go and of course find out who she is, get help from people that she might have known before she got her memory erased, and of course stop Memorize before they do more harm than good. So there you go, that's the story, and to be honest, at first I wasn't completely interested in what was going on. I really wasn't, because they throw so much at you, and because the main character doesn't know what's going on because she doesn't remember, you don't know. So you're just like, okay, I'm just going through the motions, I guess. And then of course when the story starts to explain stuff, then it actually becomes more interesting. The main character is really likable, as is a lot of the supporting characters, and for the most part, it's not the best story out there, but it's a really cool little sci-fi yarn that will definitely interest you later on in the game. Not at first, keep with it and you will be interested. So there you go, there's the story of Remember Me. It's pretty good. But now let's talk about the sound, which voice acting wise, it is a mixed bag because it has some truly terrible voice acting, but it's only for some side characters, some very small side characters. But then you have some really good voice acting, and that comes from more of the main characters of the game. So it really is a mixed bag, and I have to say, I really like the voice actress that played Nilin. She's smart, she's tough, and she has a great sexy accent. So there you go. I think the voice acting is a mixed bag, but at least the main characters actually have, some good voice actors. The sound design is very futuristic, and when it gets into the combat, it sounds really satisfying when you're punching an enemy. So the sound design is great, and the soundtrack is actually fantastic in this game. It's very futuristic, just like I said about the sound design, and it is really memorable and comes in at the right opportunities for the combat, and it is definitely something you want to have on your iPod. It's really, really good. So overall, while the voice acting isn't the greatest, I think the sound itself is really good. Now let's talk about the graphics, which Remember Me has an amazing art design because Neo Paris just looks so breathtaking. Now, the game itself is very linear, but the environments, all the buildings, all the just open environments that you do see that you can't explore sadly, but you really do want to, just look breathtaking. All the buildings, all the neon colored lights. I would even say the environment, the way it looks, and the art design actually adds a lot to the story itself, because I just really want to know more about this place, and you don't really get a lot of opportunities to check out what is going on in this world. Now, besides some repetitive character models and some really bad lip syncing, everything else looks great too. All the character models, even when it gets repetitive, are very well designed. The animations are great. All of the action itself looks great, very smooth animations. So overall, I think this is a damn good looking game with only a couple of very small problems. So overall, I think the graphics are great. But now let's talk about the gameplay for Remember Me, which is a very linear beat-em-up style game that is in the vein of something like Batman Arkham Asylum, seeing that it does have that free-flow combat system that of course Batman has. But like I said, it's extremely linear, which is unlike Batman, because all you do here is just go room to room, do some platforming, do some remixing of memories, which I'll talk about both of those later, and you just take out all the enemies and go to the next room and do it again. Now, one thing that I found interesting and kind of cool is that you can actually make your own combo by things called pressins. And pressins are pretty much the beginnings or the middle or the end of a combo. You can make a 5-hit combo. You can put any kind of pressin, which is a different move that does different types of damage, and you can actually customize it your own way. So you can make your own combo that both looks really cool and actually does a lot of damage. But besides it looking cool and being powerful, you can also get different types of pressins. One is regen, which if you hit an enemy with that pressin, you can actually regen your health. Another is power, which is pretty simple. It's just really strong attacks. If you hit them with this pressin, you will hurt them a lot. Another one is chain, which actually doubles the attack power of the last couple of hits you just performed and inflicts it to the enemy. Say you performed 50 damage. Now you'll actually perform 100. So altogether, when the combo's done, you would have performed 150 damage. Now, the last present you have, if you perform it, cools down your S present energy. Now, what the hell is an S present? An S present, of course, is a special present. Now, these special presents need energy to get performed, and some of these include stunning all enemies on screen, move at high speed and land more hits, or turn robots into allies, which then self-destruct after the effect wears off. You can use that ability or just keep beating up enemies and defeating them, and you'll finally get that bar filled up so you can use one of these presents. Adding all this to the free flow kind of combat is actually really cool, especially since you can make your own combos. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up, the combat itself is pretty generic. It's actually kind of repetitive. You don't get that feeling that Batman has whenever you knock out an enemy and it goes slow motion. You see the enemy fly back and hit something. It doesn't feel as powerful. Not saying it doesn't feel good. It does feel pretty decent at times, but because you don't feel that power, it does get a little bit too repetitive, especially since all you're doing really is just attacking and beating up enemies. Now, there is a couple other things. Like I said, there's platforming, which there's plenty of. It's very Uncharted style. Nothing amazing, but it's pretty good for the most part. Nothing else to really talk about. And of course, you have the remixing of memories, which we've seen in a couple of previews, and I am sad to say that it is a really cool feature, but they only use it about maybe 4 or 5 times in the game. Now, if you don't know what the remixing of memories is, you actually have to plug yourself into the memories of someone, go back in time, pick a specific memory, and try to change it a little bit, just with little differences here and there to make the person you are infecting, pretty much, think differently about what actually happened. Now, it doesn't actually change the past at all. It just makes them think something different. And you have to go around, like, change little things here and there. It's pretty much a puzzle, and it's actually really entertaining. Sadly, they don't use it too much in the game. And besides all this, the gameplay just doesn't have too much variety. The game itself looks great, the story gets really interesting later on, the main character is really likable, and the combat itself can be fun, but then it can get extremely repetitive, especially since there's not too much variety, like I said. So, you know what, I'm just gonna say this. Overall, Remember Me is a fun game, definitely rent it, but do not buy it until it's like maybe $30, maybe even $40, because it's not worth $60, because it does get repetitive, and remixing, while really cool, isn't really there too much, which is sad. So overall, there you go. There's my review for Remember Me. Definitely a good game, but just not great.